We're talking with former House Speaker Newt Gingrich today on Kitco News. He sat down with us to tell us about a possible presidential run in 2012, his thoughts on the U.S. midterm elections, and even the topic of gold came up. He sat down with us during the New Orleans Investment Conference where he was the keynote speaker.
Tuesday is going to be a remarkable election, and that it's probably going to signal the beginning of an enormous change in U.S. politics and policy. The other is that we live in a real world. The real world has consequences. The rise of China and India, the rise of a huge global middle class, the extraordinary explosion of scientific knowledge, and we have to rethink our policies in the context of that reality.
Now let's talk about economy and budget. According to you, what's Obama doing wrong, and what can the Republicans do to capitalize on that?
Well, I think if you have a socialist, big government, redistributionist model, it's very hard to create economic growth. First of all, you frighten the investor class, you frighten entrepreneurs, you frighten small businesses. You pass things like the Obama health legislation, which crushes small business. I have a very simple formula. Job-killing policies kill jobs. And they managed to adopt about as many job-killing policies as any one administration could do in 2 years.
Now, you mentioned the Fed announcement coming up. They're expected to announce they'll be printing more money. What impact will this have on commodities?
Well, Chairman Bernanke, I think, is fundamentally misguided in his approach. The number one job of the Federal Reserve ought to be stable money. And if it's not producing stable money, it's going to produce inflation. When it produces inflation, you're going to have a flight to gold. You're going to have a flight to other currencies. You're going to have people who begin to look ahead at what will appreciate faster than the inflation rate. You distort the entire economy. And Bernanke fundamentally misdiagnoses the problem. The problem in this economy is not money. The problem in this economy is a total lack of confidence in the federal government and a belief that it is led right now by a group of very dishonest socialists who are actively opposed to the job-creating Americans.
What's the solution if we're not printing money? How do you pump liquidity back into the system?
I don't think you do. I think what you try to do is take out the paper that's not real. I've seen studies that indicate we still haven't gotten to the bottom of housing prices, that may be a year or two off. Well, until you can get back to making an accurate market with real values, nobody's going to invest because they're all waiting for the next shoe to drop. And I think that the Federal Reserve, by trying to avoid the necessary shakeout, is in fact making the recession longer and deeper and is stopping us from creating new jobs. I also think you have to remember that this entire theory that we don't have enough cash is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of velocity. The volume of money you have is a combination of how much money there is and how fast it turns over. In a period of really deep economic recession, people don't turn it over very fast. However, the problem is if you put enough paper into the system, as it starts to recover, and you suddenly start getting an increase in the multiple of how often it turns over, you could have inflation almost overnight. And there's no reason to believe that the Fed has the discipline to take money out as fast as the velocity increases. So you're almost certainly seeing a long-term inflationary buildup. I think at a time when the Federal Reserve is determined to print more paper money, that gold is a very rational investment. I'm not an expert. I can't tell you whether it's overpriced or underpriced at the present time, but I can tell you that the system is the current general paper-based system is likely to continue decaying, and gold in that sense is a very good hedge against the future. I think historically, you've also got to look at the degree to which as China gets richer and as India gets richer, their desire for gold as a store of value is going to go up dramatically because they'll have the money to buy it, and that'll put continuing upward pricing pressure on gold. Well, I think it ought to be repealed. I favor repealing the entire Obama health bill, 2,600 pages, and then passing in small packages out in the open where it's transparent those parts that are good. But I think this bill was so badly written and is so hostile to free enterprise and is so hostile to individual liberty that the whole bill should be repealed and we should start over. We shouldn't try to play games with picking out which parts to repeal. The idea of not just bullion dealers, every business in America has to report every transaction above $600. That's insane. I mean, that gives you a level of information at the IRS that allows you to run, in effect, a functional dictatorship because you know everything everybody's doing with no legal reason to do so.
But if it's expected to bring in, I think, $17 billion by 2020, what are the chances of a repeal?
Oh, but the bill itself cost $1 trillion, so that's a net loss of $983 billion. I mean, I think this is a dead loser. And I think the average American wants it repealed. The average American does not believe in a Washington-centered, bureaucratic model of health care. And I think the pressure to repeal it's going to be overwhelming.
Finally, I have to ask you, will we see Newt Gingrich for President 2012 posters?
Well, it's very possible. I think Calista and I will decide in probably February or March. We certainly recognize there's an opportunity to offer a dramatic alternative to President Obama, and the potential to offer a market-oriented, conservative values, American exceptionalist approach is very, very tempting.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for joining us for this very exclusive interview. For Kitco News, I'm Daniela Cambone. Stay tuned to kitco.com for your latest market information.